Yeah, what up, folks? So we got a 2018 Kia Soul with 188,000 kilometers on the dash. Right, it's early in the morning, so I'm gonna attack this vehicle and see if I could get out of the garage. You know how we do. But customer complaint is that the vehicle tend to stall, and he hasn't seen any RPM on the dash. Right, no check engine light, but the vehicle does stall out, and you can't seem to figure out what his problem is. So let's see if we can diagnose it for him. All right, so I'm going to put the scan tool on this vehicle and let's see if we can obtain any sort of direction. Okay, I'm going to do a screen record so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let's do Kia. This is a 1.5, I believe it is. Kia Soul. Well, let me see if I can just boot up real quick. Probably could have done an automatic scan. This is a 16-pin automatic search. Let's do that. All right, so it's a 2018 1.6 Gamma. Press OK. All right, so am I going to do a first search? Yes, let's do it. It's called CYA. So we do have a fault on the ECM. He did mention that he was driving to work or church or something like that, and he felt like the engine started to vibrate and basically it stalled out, and he wasn't able to start up after a while. So it could be temperature related, but I mean, after a while, these crank sensor and cam sensor tend to, shut down these vehicles, a lot because, it reaches age, it reaches time. Actually, because it's in a harsh condition, right, being in the engine oil, right, if you don't change the engine oil on time, that tends to happen, right? So I think it may be the crank sensor that's acting up, right? But as I said, we're not sure. We're just trying to see if we can help this customer out. Right, I've replaced a few on the Kia Sportage, the Elantra. High-end days have the same problem. Right, when you don't change your engine oil on time, it basically you're also taking out the sensors. Unfortunately, all right. So, let's go on ECM. Yep, P0335 crank sensor position A circuit. So we definitely have a fault on the crank sensor. So let's go into engine. All right, I'm going to go into read data stream, and what I'm going to pull up is the actual speed and the target. So let's look for that straight down to the bottom. Let's look for target RPM and let's look for actual engine speed. So the reason why I'm going to pull that up because the crank sensor is what basically reads off this sensor. So off the tone ring on the crankshaft. So right now we have 0 RPM because the vehicle is not running, and we also have target RPM. So it's cold out, so I'm expecting to see the vehicle start up, I guess. Let's see. Okay, so there you have it. So it starts up and we're getting no RPM still, but I'm seeing RPM on the ECU, and now it came back up. So there you have it. So it looks like when the vehicle is cool, right, the RPM is there, and when it's not, the sensor tends to fail when it gets hot. All right, so let's go on the hood and let's, take some capture, take some waveform, and see exactly if you could get this vehicle act up and monitor the crankshaft. But I definitely feel like a rough rider also. So let's go on the hood. So I got my oscilloscope. Let me just set you up right here. I got my oscilloscope hooked on to the crankshaft sensor. Is right down here, just in front of the fan. Right, is basically bolt onto the block. Is a 2-wire sensor. So I'm expecting to see a sine wave setup. Right, this up here, a sensor, and right now I'm getting basically engine RPM. So my altitude is good, so I don't have to worry about the height as well. Let's bring this down so you can see it better. Okay, and let's see if we can decrease the time a little bit, and there you have it, a good sine wave. So right now the ECU is seeing that signal, and basically have the vehicle running, right? So apparently when the crank sensor fails, right, you don't see any signal. So what the ECU will do is like basically throw out a default value just to keep the vehicle running, and give you enough RPM to pull over so you don't get out of harm's way. But you definitely may have to take off that shield, get the vehicle up in the air, and we have to remove that crank sensor and replace it. Right. So let me talk to the customer and see what he like to do. Right, and inform him that I would recommend that he get replace the cam sensor as well. Right, the both intake and the exhaust cam, because they tend to follow when the crank goes, the cam goes, because they all both sensors, well, all three sensors is basically immersion heat soaked oil that most likely the customer haven't replaced in a while either. So yeah, right now the vehicle is running real good, so I probably gotta let it warm up a little bit and then I would see if the signal drops out. Vehicle cut out on its own. I did not stop it. You can see basically it dropped out. So I just had my scope here charging. So let's put it back on and let's try to crank this vehicle and see if we get any sort of signal coming off this crank sensor. I already know that we gotta replace the sensor, just as I said. Let's go beyond ensuring that everything is checked out before I made the call on the sensor. All right, let's see. Let's set this up so I can take off this reference. All right, so let's go in the vehicle and let's see if we can start this vehicle back up. Okay, so I'm gonna make an attempt to start the car up again. This is hard starting, it's rough starting. Right, you see no RPM on the tach. Let's go in front and let's take a look at the scan tool. Right, so we get RPM and basically no signal. I'm still hooked on to my crankshaft signal right there, nothing at all. So right now what you're seeing here is the ECU is putting out a default value to try to fool the system so you can basically get you into limp mode in a nutshell. So nothing at all. And if we go and go in a vehicle, sorry about that, I have no RPM. Let's step on the X. Yeah. So we definitely gotta replace this sensor.
2 hours later.
Yeah, so I got the okay from the customer to replace the part. We're gonna drop off both cam and crank sensor in a few, and we're gonna get that out and get this vehicle up and running. So I'm just gonna remove this sensor right here, and let's take a look at it. Basically, it's look like a normal crank sensor. A little minor sludge on it, stuff like that. Nothing to talk about. So we're gonna pop in a new one, and this vehicle should be able to be delivered to the customer. Yeah, you got some rear seal problems and axle seal problems, and someone let the customer know that you gotta rectify that. Alright, since we got the new crank sensor installed, I'm just gonna scan the vehicle, ensure that we have no DTC on the system, and with that now, we're gonna just make sure all is well before we hand this vehicle over to the customer. So we did replace the exhaust cam and the crank sensor, but he have to return with the intake. Alright, so once he gets his hands on that, I will replace it. But for now, we're just gonna go into ECM. Let's press enter, and let's take off this light so I don't get no glare here. Let's read 4 codes. So I got a P0335 code. Alright, so we're gonna clear this 4 code off the system. Alright, press OK, Alright, so we don't have anything. Let's head back out. Alright, so let's start the vehicle up and see what's going on. Alright, there you have it. Do I have any adaptation to do? Let's see. Special function. Yes, we do. So let's switch off. Let's switch back on. I'm gonna reset the adaptive value. Press OK. Are you sure? Yes. Real quick, hold on. Ignition on. Are you sure? Alright, so probably just gotta come all the way back out because I should have done that first before I start the vehicle up. Alright, let's go back in. I also have the scope on the sensor just to ensure that it's working, but I believe we're on point. So let's go back in. I'm gonna go and select 2018 Kia Soul. Automatically detect. Let's press OK. And let's press this one. Press OK. Let's go again. ACM. OK. And let's go into special function. Reset values. I'm not sure if it's working right now. Right, so it's completed. Let's press OK. So what that basically did is reset all the information that was basically stored on the system. Let's come out here. Let's go and read full codes. Nothing. Let's come back out and let's read data stream. I mean, we don't have to, but I would like to. So let's look for our target RPM. Press OK and graph this. All right, so let's start the vehicle up. All right, it's running. So let's go in front and take a look at the oscilloscope. Okay, so let's set it up. All right, so there you have it. Right, so let's go into this one and let's open it up a little bit. And yeah, there you have it. So we're gonna definitely call this a fix. Right, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that bell notification, give me a thumbs up. Other than that, take it easy. Peace.